Basically Awesome Design presents a Basically Awesome Sphere Gesture tutorial. Yeah, how about that? So, what is it we're going to do today? Well, if you're an art student, you're probably familiar with the term gesture. And if you've ever had geometry, you know what a sphere is. Yes, we're going to do gesture drawings of a sphere. Now, these gestures are different from what Kimon Nicolaides teaches in his book. We're not scribbling. We're not mass drawing. However, we are drawing very quickly and we are trying to convey energy. We're also trying to convey structure, something that most people teaching gesture drawing do not do. Well, why do it this way? Well, I'll show you. Okay, here's what we're after. Not really, but it shows you the basic structure of a sphere, which is important. Presented as three elliptical planes projected in space. Now these three planes are the minimum requirement for depicting three dimensions, whether you see planes or not. So there you go. That goes for anything. Now these are planes, so conceivably you could set something on one of them. We're looking down on this one so the steel ball doesn't roll off. And that observation is key. We're looking down on the sphere so we can see some of the back parts and some of the side parts of the ellipses. Notice also how the planes go outside each other and overlap. That's because we're looking at planes. Don't confuse the green central ellipse for the outside of the sphere. Well, I could actually put all the planes in here, not just three, and the contours of those ellipses would create an actual outside contour of the sphere. But I won't today. So why go to all this trouble? I mean, a sphere just looks like a circle anyway, with a little bit of shading, right? Why bother? Well, let's start. First, we need what my instructor called a greasy pencil, something that will get the job done with a decent range of light to dark tones. A General's HB charcoal pencil, sharpened about like this, does the job very nicely. Also notice how I'm holding the pencil. This will allow the maximum movement of the arm and hand from the shoulder. Okay, let's draw one of these things. First, a strong vertical and a strong horizontal. And the z-axis going from the back of the sphere toward me. These axis lines should be the strongest. Next, we put in the construction lines, the edges of each of the three planes we need. We're not interested in drawing the whole cube like the one I showed at the beginning. Now we just jump into drawing the ellipses. So we keep the lines flowing together if possible. If you have to draw the ellipses separately at first, that's okay, but we're trying to work toward a gesture, so we need to eventually run them together for speed. We need to feel the axis lines the strongest because that's what's going to register the third dimension in our brains. We're trying to train ourselves. Alright, now I'm going to try to do a couple of good ones. I'm going to work faster to kind of give you a better idea of how it should go. Still trying to do everything accurately. Alright, let's get things moving a bit. I think you get the point. And everything was done with this little pencil. Okay, now I'm going to explain why. What does this exercise actually teach you? A lot of things, actually. Let's speed this up again. Alright, now that we're getting done with this row, the first thing that we actually practice or concentrate on when we're doing the sphere gestures is proportion. Notice I'm marking each of the sections as equal sections. They should be equal. So we're building a habit of seeing these proportions so that seeing the correct proportions for anything we draw becomes automatic. That's a great benefit. So first we do the heavy axis lines and then the light construction lines, which we can eventually just leave out. Then the first ellipse, which is kind of a mid-tone. And then we vary our line for the other two ellipses for what is called aerial or atmospheric perspective. Notice how the front of the other two ellipses, the sides closest to us, are dark, and they fade as they go back into space. Now, aerial perspective means showing things that are closer in higher contrast and things that are further away in lower contrast if you're not familiar with it. It's a point of study for all art students, another tool for the box. Aerial perspective on my sphere will make it look more convincing, like it has depth in space. It's good practice to start thinking of most all 3D objects in aerial perspective. So we have proportion, aerial perspective. Next, let's have a look at rhythm. Now, I don't mean visual rhythms, I mean arm movements, a cadence when you're drawing. Drawing is really a performance, if you think about it. It should almost feel like playing a musical instrument when your hand, wrist, and arm move together. Notice my rhythmic movements here. And this rhythm reminds me of something else, namely unity, which unfortunately gets chopped off in this video. Now, unity in drawing means the parts relate to each other and to the whole. It's symmetry, but it's more than that. In a sphere, it's basically symmetry. We draw each side with the other side. We're training ourselves, left with the right, top with the bottom, and so on. That was a good one. Scratch his head. Right. Now I write a bunch of stuff that you can't see. I wrote symmetry. And in this case it's correct because with a sphere it is symmetry. But if you were drawing the human body, you would draw the shoulder with the other shoulder, and they wouldn't necessarily be symmetrical, of course. Okay. Now, accuracy is slightly different from proportion. Accuracy means accuracy with my drawing instrument. It means that if I look at a point, I can hit it with the tip of my pencil without having to think much. So I put ticks on the ends of the axes and then try to hit them all. Full speed, of course. Good practice. All right. So now let's review what I demoed at the beginning about the ellipses sort of overlapping each other. Accuracy still means we have these overlaps, so we don't want to just draw the flat ellipses. Always remember that the center circle is just an ellipse. It's not the outline of the sphere. So keep the third dimension in mind always, as much as you can. Well, we're learning to juggle here. We have all these things to concentrate on. Eventually they'll all become habit and we won't even have to think about them. Simple as that. But wait, there's still more to learn from sphere gestures, ladies and gentlemen. Possibly the most important item, the sense of 3D that you get from doing them. And the damn pencil goes dull. Alright, sharpen up. Do an accurate layout. And when doing the sphere, concentrating on 3D, concentrate on those flat planes. Think about how they intersect each other. The ellipses sit inside each of those planes. Again, concentrate on trying to visualize each ellipse in space. It will really help your 3D sense. And yes, again, we are looking down on this particular sphere. We could draw the z-axis, or the z-axis if you are of the British persuasion, pointing in any direction we want, really, as long as we can clearly see the xz plane, or the xz plane. But remembering that we're looking down on the sphere will help us remember to keep the axes in the right place, and it will help cement the illusion of 3D in our minds. We're seeing part of the back of the sphere as well as around the sides. The sphere doesn't just come to an abrupt end at the edges, it wraps around. Okay, now let's just go for it. Put it all together. Ah, yes. Now, how can we forget this one? Speed. And this part of the video isn't sped up. Check it. You can hear my air conditioner. It's sloppy, but again, it's all part of the refinement process. If I could put all the pieces together at the same time for my own art, with all of these aspects, I would spontaneously sprout wings, grow a halo, and float away on a cloud as the god of 3D drawing. But that ain't going to happen. There's always going to be something to refine with these gestures. There's always going to be something to learn. It's just like scales on the piano. There. Now there are other benefits I didn't mention to doing these sphere gestures, but the video is getting too long right now. You can work on line economy, just getting the darn thing drawn with a minimum number of lines, because there are a lot of lines. You can work on making each gesture a thing of beauty. You can work on your line quality. There are so many things you can do with this exercise, and I'm discovering more of them all the time. But the key is, try it for yourself and you'll see. Now, this isn't just to learn how to draw perfect spheres. This video would be pointless. This practice will benefit all types of drawing that you do. We're training ourselves, we're building our skills, and giving ourselves tool sets for all the art that we want to do. In my next video, you'll see how I apply drawing a sphere gesture into drawing of an actual 3D object. Something that isn't abstract like a sphere. And keep in mind, you can gesture anything you want, not just the human body, not just spheres, but anything with a structure. It really helps your mind wrap around the concept of 3D. Until next time, bye-bye.